Hello plant lovers, and welcome to our glorious rental courtyard. As you can see, slightly full of things. Not the best climate out here, struggle to get sunlight and warmth, but hey ho, here we are managing. And today we are looking at this wonderful flowering creeper, Tripolium tricolor. I think I pronounced it correctly. Otherwise known as the Chilean nasturtium. Doesn't really look much like a nasturtium, but it is a fabulous plant, and here's why. Firstly, it is of course rare and unusual, hard to find, and it is a winter flower, although it is now the first few days of spring in Australia, and here we are. So it has these extraordinary flowers which gather at the top of the creeper, and they all point in the same direction, and it's really quite extraordinary. The colours, as you can see, are amazing. Scarlet, yellow, and a little bit of blue, I think. So some basics. Firstly, it is, yes indeed, from Chile, and I think parts of Bolivia as well. It grows naturally in thickets, so it scrambles through other shrubs and small trees and winds its leaf around branches for support. It's tuberous, and its tubers are like a sort of a small kifla potato or a little turmeric tuber. Quite small, and the secret is, as with all tuberous things, doesn't like being too wet because they do rot, and as this is hard to find, you don't want to rot it. It is a creeper and it is a scrambler, so in its natural environment it will scramble through smaller shrubs and trees, clinging on to small branches. So to grow it at home you'll need to find support, find wire support or slim bamboo supports to allow it to climb up. It can scramble for quite some height. It'll kind of go almost as high as you can give it space to, 6 to 8 feet to 2.5 meters, so be prepared for that. But it will also stop at the point that you have given it space to go to, so don't think you've got to give it huge amounts of space, because you don't need to. The interesting thing about this plant is that it starts to shoot in early winter. They're very, very fine shoots, very easy to snap and to be eaten by slugs and snails, so be careful on that front. So the plant starts to grow through winter, and then towards late winter and early spring the blooms start to appear, which do last for quite some time, a good month or so, so you get an amazing display when there's not much else going on in the garden. Like most bulbs, tubers, it has a rest period, which in this case is summer, which is, I guess, counterintuitive, but it's not really. Anyway, the important thing to remember is keep it dry, because the tubers, like most tubers and bulbs, can rot. Now, generally with bulbs, I don't dry them out completely in their dormant season. I like to keep the soil a little bit moist, not completely dry. But with this baby, I dried it out completely. And then once the soil was dry, I took the tubers out. You don't have to do that though, just don't overwater it. The potting mix that I've got it in is just a regular potting mix. It is a tuber, so you want something free draining. You could use a mix of something that is designed for cactus and succulent with a mix of regular potting mix, maybe 50-50. Whatever it is, just make sure that it's free draining and you don't overwater it. After its summer rest period, I plant the bulbs literally on the last days of summer, which in Australia are the last few days of February. So in the Northern Hemisphere, that would perhaps be the last few days of August, early September. And then water just a little bit and a little bit of fertilizer, and wait until you start to see the first shoots. Then you can start to water and fertilize a little bit more. But bearing in mind it's winter and the soil will retain a lot of moisture, still don't go crazy because you could still rot the bulbs. The tubers also need a winter chill, so this is the issue depending on where you're living as to whether you can grow it inside or outside. Now it is reasonably hardy. I know people who grow it in the hills outside of Melbourne where it regularly gets to freezing, and they have light frosts and the odd flurry of snow, but it's not super cold. It thrives there. However, if you were in a very cold place with seriously below zero temperatures, it's probably something to keep indoors, but it does need the winter chill to stimulate the tubers into active growth. If you are planting it outside, a good thing to do is to plant it in the roots of either the shrub or the small tree that you want it to cling through, because that will naturally be quite sandy and dry and will keep the tuber quite dry during its dormant period in summer. And you then give it the support to grow through, and so a great thing to grow it on or in is something deciduous that is going to flower in late spring or early summer. So then you're going to have the green and the color of this in late winter, early spring. This then dies, you then have your shrub or your small tree taking over. And once this does die off, you just cut it right down and take it out and leave your shrub to do its magic thing They like a little bit of sunlight. They like dappled morning sunlight. Not so great with full-on afternoon sun, I don't think. Again, depends where you are. So this one gets morning sun and then a bit of dappled light. So they tend to be more of a shade-loving plant than a sun-loving plant. Once it's an active growth then, I just keep it reasonably moist, not too moist, and let it do its thing. Once the flowers, you can see, kind of reach their peak, once you start to get into summer, it is time to really ease off the watering and just let it die naturally. And then you can keep the pot to one side, wait till the soil's really dried out, take out the tubers, and then you will discover that they have multiplied. So it's actually very easy to propagate. Every year you probably get 2 or 3 new tubers, so you can split it up, you can give it to friends. You probably need a couple in each pot to get 3 or 4 good stems going. But I think I got 5 last time when I repotted this. So it's a great thing, very productive, and you can give it to friends. There we are, plant lovers, Tropelium tricolor, a fabulous, rare and unusual plant from furthest Chile or Bolivia, depending on the exact border. Slightly hard to come by, but no matter where you are, I'm sure you can manage it. Now here I'm in Melbourne in Australia, which is southern Australia, the equivalent of about climate zone 10 in the USA and the southeast of England. It could very well easily grow outside here, but we're in a rental, so it's not. But it's growing in a pot outside really well, bit of filtered light, not too much water. If you can plant it outside, just make sure it's in a spot where it doesn't get too wet. And if you're in a zone where it can't survive outside, just make sure that it gets a nice winter chill. So perhaps you would leave it in an unheated porch or an unheated greenhouse over winter. The flowers aren't fragrant, but they are fabulous and they last a long time. So it really is amazing. If you grow it in a pot and you grow it up a little trellis, you have this crown of green and the amazing flowers all pointing in the same direction. It's a real showstopper and looks amazing. So do try and find it if you can. I'll put the link below as to where I bought mine here in Melbourne. I think you can, if you hunt around, you should be able to find them online. Best time to buy it is obviously in summer when it's dormant and you just get sent the tuber in the post. The stems can be quite brittle, so I wouldn't be buying one in its growth period because it will inevitably have snapped off and you'll be devastated. So shop for it in summer when it's dormant, and then you can wait until the end of summer to plant it, not overwater it, and wait until late winter, early spring for the most fabulous display. There we are, plant lovers. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting like, and I'll see you next time with something else wonderful that's in bloom in my rental courtyard.